So they say a week is a very long time in politics, but if you are a Reform voter, this week must have felt like a year, because there are few things more depressing than having hope dashed. And that is what seemed to happen a week ago tomorrow. Consistently leading in the polls, with a membership edging towards 250,000 people, Farage's party looked solid and on track for council election wins this spring. Then, outspoken MP Rupert Lowe got caught in a Daily Mail interview questioning Nigel's character for high office. He had the whip removed, albeit the explanation for that is a long-standing bullying allegation involving members of his office, not him, and an accusation that he physically threatened party chair Zia Youssef. Now, of course, Lowe denies the allegations and is actively challenging those claims. It may not have helped that Rupert told the Mail that illegal migrants should be sent to an island off the coast of Scotland and, quote, let the midges do their work. Farage says there is no way back for Rupert Lowe, and I know that a lot of you at home will be very disappointed by that. He is an extremely popular local MP in Great Yarmouth, not least because he doesn't act like your typical MP, and maybe that's part of the problem. You need to be a team player first and a strong individual second. Politics is not for everyone. But good news for those of you that were despairing that the LabCon Uni Party have won all over again. A GB News poll conducted by JL Partners concluded that when 2,000 people were asked, who is this man, and shown a picture of Lowe, 86% had absolutely no idea. Even 71% of Reform voters didn't know who he was. He may have been 20% of Reform's sitting MPs, but those figures suggest that the Reform storm will end up being nothing but a light spring breeze. Let's get the thought of my panel. Conservative peer Lord Bailey, former Labour advisor Matthew Larser, and former Conservative MP Anna Firth. Now, I don't go quite as fast as Patrick Christys because he doesn't wear high heels, at least not in public, so bear with me while I get over to the sofa. Anna, when you see what's happened to Reform this week, there was a time, maybe over the weekend, when it felt like the temperature was very, very hot on this issue, and it was hard to see how Nigel and the party could resolve it. It seems to have died down, and this polling is showing actually that maybe Rupert Lowe won't have that much impact.
Well, I still think it's actually very, very damaging for Reform, and Rupert Lowe's letter published today on Twitter shows that you know, he's not letting this drop. He wants to try and resolve it, but equally in the letter he's making it very, very clear that he is going to pursue this. He regards the allegations that have been made against him as defamatory. But I mean, the main thing here, this is a pattern, isn't it? You know, Nigel Farage, very charismatic, brilliant on GB News, cannot govern a party. This is a pattern. You know, he pushes out talented people, pushed out Suzanne Evans, pushed out Patrick O'Flynn, split up with Ben Habib. I mean, he couldn't run a Bath, could he? Let alone run a country.
So what do you think has happened there? Because that point that I was making then about the fact that in politics you do have to be a team player first and foremost. Surely at this stage of a party's development, particularly, well, it's really crucial that surely you literally toe the party line.
Well, but that's the whole point. I mean, politics is a team game. And if there's only 5 of you and you can't even stick together when there's 5 of you, no way are you ever going to be able to stick together when there's 200 or 250. What this is showing us loud and clear is that Reform isn't actually a serious party at all. It's just a collection of people who've got their own points of view. And it's actually a real shame, because Rupert Lowe is probably the best parliamentarian that they've got. 50% of Reform's parliamentary activity comes from Rupert Lowe. You know, the letters he writes, the things that he says. And I actually think he'd be an awful lot more comfortable on another side of the House. And I hope he will think about coming across.
Is that you invited him back?
You invited him...
I mean, it's not for me. It's not for me to invite him. But, you know, we're a broad party. And if he wants to come and have a conversation, I'd have a conversation.
With his talk of mass repatriation, I'm not sure that some of those in the Tory party wouldn't be that happy about if he came back.
I don't know. What do you think, Sean? He saying take the illegal migrants, put them on a Scottish island and let the midges do the rest. Maybe Kemi Badenoch would love to hear that.
I mean, Kemi's probably a bit more measured than that.
Absolutely.
But we are a broad church. There's certainly be room for that sort of view of what we should do in mass migration in the party. Look, the thing I'd say is this. I said very early on, there's a difference between politics and governance. And if you want to grow a political party, you have to show you can govern inside your party, because that is a reflection of what you would do outside of your party. And, you know, Reform have had a really good run because they were a new, exciting thing. But what they didn't realise, like many new Labour MPs, the press isn't just ranged against the Tories. You had 14 years of Tories being hunted down. What they're realising now, they're ranged against anyone who's in power, Labour MPs, and anybody who sticks their head above the parapet. Reform. And in the press world, this is a juicy story.
Yeah.
And what really makes it juicy is Nigel's history of maybe not getting along with the people at the top end of his party, or feeling challenged by them and pushing back. And also, it doesn't matter which party you are, you have to respect Rupert Lowe as a parliamentarian. He's a very effective, very diligent parliamentarian. So when you fall out with him, it looks like something has gone wrong.
But Matthew, in this conversation, everyone is forgetting these bullying allegations going on behind the scenes, and two women who've made these complaints. Do you think this fallout is due to that, or is it this play of egos that the media is depicting it as?
Well, clearly, I think there must be, there must be something in these allegations, because otherwise they'd have been dismissed. They have appointed an independent KC to look into them. Rupert initially said that, the KC had just dismissed them all. It seems that's not quite the case, and the KC is looking into them. The police, we don't know how far that will go, but the police are involved over some of the allegations as well. I mean, I think it really shows that, I feel a bit sorry for Nigel, because Nigel wants to try and turn Reform from being a brand of people who agree on Twitter to being a potential governing force in Britain. He's on a hiding to nothing, because it doesn't have that level of discipline. It doesn't have an actual coherent ideology behind it, apart from being angry. And I can understand a lot of that anger. I can understand why a lot of former Labour voters have said to tell pollsters that they might vote Reform. But, some of the things people have said are just, they're fine on Twitter, but, they're just ridiculous in terms of a governing philosophy.
It's really important to point out as well, I just want to repeat this, that these allegations of bullying aren't against Rupert Lowe himself. The idea is there was a culture within some of his offices that he failed to maybe deal with quickly.
I think the allegation about the police looking at is directly about him, but he denies it, doesn't he?
Correct. And
he completely denies it.
With Zia Youssef, the chair of the Reform Party.
Which apparently was weeks ago and has only just been referred to the police. Well, if it was that bad, wouldn't you have referred it at the time?
But there's two ways.
Clearly.
But there's two...
One more quick point, Sean. This has clearly affected Farage's popularity, though. According to YouGov, his unfavourability rating has doubled in the last week.
Yeah.
So it's not something...
For Nigel himself, maybe, but the Reform were topping the polls again today.
But this is what we've been, told repeatedly. But every time it comes to a by-election, actually, it's the Conservatives that are winning. The Conservatives have won, I think, have gained 23 seats. I think Reform have gained 8. So 3 times the number of seats. When it actually comes to putting your cross on a piece of paper, people are rejecting this failed Labour Party, and they are actually voting for the...
Well, we'll see what happens in Runcorn and Hellsbury.
Here's the real risk for Nigel. It's people in the know. It's people who are Reform through and through, who normally came from the Tory party. These are the people who'll be affected by these stories. They'll start to ask themselves the question, actually, have I joined a protest party? Have I calmed down? Should I be giving Kemi a proper hearing? It's those people they'll lose. And why those people are important? Because they are the foundation on which you would build a new party.
That pivotal interview that Rupert Lowe gave to my morning co-presenter, Andrew Pearce, in the Daily Mail, was kind of lit the touch paper, didn't it, with all of this. Should he have been allowed, Rupert Lowe, to give that interview, Matt? Should he have gone to the party for permission at this delicate stage of their development?
Well, I mean, although it seems, authoritarian, if parties are going to have message discipline, as those spin doctors, albeit a retired one like me, are all about, then you have to have control. Everything that every minister says has to go through a number 10. Everything that the Kemi's shadow cabinet has to go through Kemi's office as well. And, even the Lib Dems have message discipline. So what I think, when they're not in a surf suit. So I think, yes, if it was going to be a grown-up party. But apparently one of the problems is that Rupert says that he didn't want to be told what he could and couldn't say at a conference. And some of the language that he wanted to put in was about, use of words like mass repatriation. And maybe I've not got the phrase right, but, something along those lines. That's that's really unacceptable, even to a lot of people in reform. So you cannot just be a big personality. It's one thing, you know, for us to somebody to be on the media and express their views as individuals like we do. It's another thing if you're on part of a team, and especially when that team is so small.
But that's what it goes to. If Nigel Farage wants a political party, he has to construct one.
Yeah.
And he should have said to anybody who wants to join, here's the deal. There's only 5 of us, we're effectively the front bench, right? If you're going to have opinions that are outside of what we've arranged, sayonara, you're no longer a member.
It's kind of what he said.
No. What he done, he let something go wrong.
Yeah.
Now, so a person could be of the opinion, you know, well, because they're not doing what Nigel wants, he gets rid of them. Not really. They're not doing what the party wants, but Nigel hasn't set it up that way, and that's where the problem lies. If you're going to govern, you have to set things up and you have to have systems. They don't have those systems.
But I'm quite surprised, though, because, I mean, Lee Anderson himself, of course, you know, ran foul of the Conservative chief whip and ended up, you know, leaving the Conservative Party. So Lee Anderson, as the chief
I used to be a comrade of Lee Anderson's in the Labour Party.
Lee Anderson, you would have thought, would have learned from that experience just how important it is.
I did
to
say
keep everyone
to
together.
one of the senior members of Reform this week, why did you let Rupert Lowe do that interview? And he said, if you ask me that question, it means you don't know Rupert Lowe.
Yeah.
In other words, we could have told him you're not doing it, and he'll say, I can do what I want.
But that is his right. Just be clear, he's elected in his own right.
That's why I'm interested to know what politicians think. Yeah.
I am a member of the GLA. I'm part of a group, but we discuss everything. We're really good at that. But ultimately, we always have to say to each other, but of course, you can make the decision to do that, but you will set yourself against the group. What will we have to do in our defence? And that's why some of what Nigel's done is a natural reaction, and Rupert Lowe also has to have some responsibility to the party.
But it all comes down, I mean, that's the key point that you've made there, Sean. It all comes down to effective communication within your
He was
group,
very effective when he communicated.
But what's happening now is the communication is all in public. It shows
it's
that
agreement.
It should have been behind closed
It should have been behind
And
closed
one of the
doors.
problems is that with the looking towards the local elections coming up in a few weeks' time, that they were hoping that they were going to have a new army of people. Yes, people who tweet, but people are also going to deliver leaflets and knock on doors. The problem now is I'm told by one of the ex-Brexit Party MEPs told me that they were still in some, you know, some WhatsApp groups and they're all dividing. Are you on Team Nigel or Team Rupert? That's not good when you need to motivate those workers
That is the
to go out
beginning
and
of the
knock
end,
on the
I'm
doors.
afraid. That is the beginning of the end. And you've only got 20% have gone already.
Well,
Not a good
maybe.
start.
I mean, obviously, Nigel Farage would say that this is early days between now and the next election. Anything could happen.
And he's correct.
You'd be daft to write Nigel off.
This is a pattern, that's the thing. I mean, he's had the UKIP party, they couldn't get on. Brexit party, ultimately, they couldn't get on, and now here we are again.
That's a serious point. If I was Kemi, for instance, I'd be pointing out this is Nigel's second or third party. You know, they're not consistent, they're not serious. You know, Labour, love them or hate them, they've been consistent over years and decades. And that's the point, isn't it? And Rupert Lowe and this fight is at precisely the wrong time. What makes political parties is local councillors. I'll tell that to anybody all day long. You elevate your local councillors, they give you an MP. And to do that now could be real damage.
And with this parliamentary by-election coming up, we haven't got a date for it yet, but when it's coming up, which with the, you know, Mike Ainsbury, the punching MP, the replacement for him, that was going to be a big test for reform. People were betting that reform was going to at least challenge really close, if not take it.
Exactly.
It's looking less likely now.
We can discuss this all night long, but we're going to see the answer.
And Reform aren't here, but they would say maybe they still...
They may still.
Yeah, maybe.
If I was Labour, I wouldn't be getting complacent.
Very interesting.
If
Right,
they
guys.
do...
Thank you.